Anthem by Ayn Rand. Ayn Rand was born in St. Petersburg, Russia on February 2nd, 1905. She witnessed two revolutions during her teenage years in Russia. The communist victory resulted in the confiscation of her father's pharmacy and periods of near starvation for her family. So she very much opposed the mysticism and collectivism of Russian culture. When she was introduced to American history in her last year of high school, she immediately took America as her model of what a nation of free men could be. In late 1925, she obtained permission to leave the Soviet Russia for a visit to relatives in the United States. Although she told the Soviet authorities that her visit would be short, she never intended to leave, and she stayed in the U.S. She wrote Anthem, the novel that we read, in 1937, and other novels while she was living in the United States. Anthem is considered a dystopian novella. Novella because it's short. A dystopia is the opposite of a utopia. It's a fictional society which takes place in the future where standards of living are terrible due to oppression, deprivation, and terror, often due to oppressive social control, a government causing all of these things. In most dystopian societies, the government creates a poor quality of life, but they make the people think that it's good. Most dystopian literature is written as a warning to show what could happen. One of the biggest themes in this story is the idea of the collectivism versus individualism. Collectivism, in Ayn Rand's word, is the subjugation of the individual to the group. Whether to a race, class, or a state doesn't matter. Collectivism holds that a man must be chained to a collective and collective thought for the sake of what is called the common good. That's what we see in this society in Anthem. The individual is owned by the group, does not have a right to private existence, cannot lead his own life, pursue his own happiness, or use his own property. He exists only as a part of the group. Here's an example, a quote from Anthem that illustrates collectivism. "We are one in all and all in one. There are no men, but only the great we, one, indivisible, and forever." Now, individualism, according to Ayn Rand, regards man, every man, as an independent, sovereign entity who possesses an inalienable right to his own life, a right derived from his nature as a rational being. Individualism holds that the individual has rights. The individual will not let anyone run his life, and he will not try to run theirs. The individual will not sacrifice himself to anyone or let anyone sacrifice themselves to him. Here's a quote from Anthem that illustrates this. "I am not a tool for their use. I am not a servant of their needs. I am not a bandage for their wounds. I am not a sacrifice on their altars. I am a man." Another idea that we can see in Anthem is the idea of altruism. Altruism, according to Ayn Rand, is that man has no right to exist for his own sake, that service to others is the only justification of his existence, and self-sacrifice is his highest moral duty, virtue, and value. Here's a quote from Anthem that illustrates this idea. "If you are not needed by your brother man, there is no reason for you to burden the earth with your bodies." Now, the main idea of this is selflessness. A selfless individual is a mindless individual. Altruism would say that you needed to be selfless. To practice selflessness, you must abstain from thinking and just obey your master. You must merge yourself into the group and block out all of your own individuality. The result of this would be a mindless society of robots, just as we found in Anthem. Obviously, that's not good, according to Ayn Rand. She would push forth the idea of egoism. Now, egoism states that each man's primary moral obligation is to achieve his own welfare, well-being, or self-interest. He should be selfish in the sense of being the beneficiary of his own moral actions. Now, she doesn't mean selfish in that you don't care about other people. That's not how equality spends his life. He does care about other people, but his primary moral obligation is for his own welfare. He's not just doing things for other people. He's also concerned about himself. So that's what she means by selfishness, and that's what she means by egoism. Here's a quote that illustrates egoism. My happiness is not the means to any end. It is the end. It is its own goal. It is its own purpose. Now, some may question that egoism is a religion. In fact, in Anthem, equality says, "This is God, this one word, I." And in the final words of the book, she refers to ego as the sacred word. So is it a religion? Is I, is the individual, a god? Is that what Ayn Rand thinks? Well, no, that's not what she's saying. For Ayn Rand, the self is like a god, but not in a religious sense. It is a god in that it is one's highest value, the source of what is good in life on earth. The title, she says, is her hymn to man's ego. Anthem is all about, the reason she calls it that is because this is all about man's ego. That's what the whole book is about celebrating the self. And so that's why she calls it Anthem. An anthem is a hymn. Objectivism is Ayn Rand's philosophy. You can find out a lot of information about this on her website. But the first tenet of this has to do with the nature of reality. It's the idea that reality exists as an objective absolute, that facts are facts independent of man's feelings, wishes, hopes, or fears. Objectivism rejects the view that reality is some supernatural realm inaccessible to reason, or that everyone has his own subjective reality. The second tenet has to do with knowledge. The idea that reason is man's only means of perceiving reality, his only source of knowledge, his only guide to action, and his basic means of survival. This sounds a lot like the rationalist, doesn't it? Objectivism rejects both the view that there is some non-rational means of knowledge, in other words, you can't use faith like the Puritans or intuition like the Romantics, and it rejects the view that knowledge is impossible and truth is relative to the individual or culture. There is only one truth. Another tenet of objectivism has to do with human nature, that individuals have free will, they are autonomous and independent. By using reason, they can determine their own beliefs and values and thus control their own lives. Again, sounds like the rationalists. Objectivism rejects the view that an individual's thoughts and actions are the results of factors beyond his own control. We do have free will. We can use it. The fourth tenet is morality. This is the idea that every individual is an end to himself, which means that the individual should be selfish, should live by his own mind and for his own happiness, neither sacrificing himself to others or sacrificing others to himself. Now keep in mind what I told you about selfishness. It does not have to do with not caring about others. It just has to do with living by your own mind. Objectivism rejects the view that an individual's moral worth is determined by his service to society, the needy, or the nation, or some deity like God. And the final tenet of objectivism has to do with politics. It's the idea that capitalism is the only moral social system. The only proper purpose of government is the protection of an individual's right to life, liberty, property, and the pursuit of happiness. This is what we have in the Declaration of Independence. This is what our country is founded on. It rejects the view that the government exists to further the common good, which is the will of the majority or any particular group. It also rejects the idea that government is evil by nature. Now, in this novel, we have some motifs, which are recurrent devices that signal the that serve as a signal for the appearance of a character or event. We have the following motifs in Anthem: the use of darkness and light, the presence of ignorance and knowledge, and those go hand in hand. When we see darkness, it represents ignorance, and when we see light, it represents knowledge. There's also the idea of transgression, which are sins, and damnation, being damned for those sins. Now the big thing is the changing of the names. Equality starts off as being this equality 7, 25, 21. It has to do with, this is just a name and a number. It's not anything special, he's just randomly assigned this. Then he's given the name the Unconquered by Liberty. And this is because of his he's not going to allow himself to be conquered by this government that expects him to do things in certain ways. He's becoming an individual. Then he names himself Prometheus. Now, Prometheus, in Greek mythology, was a cunning titan. He ridiculed the gods, especially Zeus. He stole fire from the gods and gave it to man. Well, Zeus wasn't happy about this, so he punished him by having him bound to a rock while an eagle ate his liver every day, only to have it grow back and eaten again the next day. Equality in the book says that he took the light of the gods and he brought it to men, and he taught men to be gods, and he suffered for his deed, as all bearers of light must suffer. So why would equality want to bear this name? The idea is that he feels like he has, his light is his light bulb, and he feels that he has brought light to men by bringing knowledge. Light equals knowledge. He's brought this light, this knowledge to his fellow man, and now he's going to suffer. His suffering is that he is ostracized from society and has to go out and live in the forest. Of course, it's really not that much suffering because he's actually happier there. But that's why he wants to bear Prometheus's name. Now, Liberty goes through a name change also. Again, Liberty 53000. This is just a general name, a random name given to her. It's ironic in the sense that she's really not free, which is what liberty means. She's then given the title of the Golden One by Prometheus, which indicates that he sees her as being something separate from everyone else. He sees her as an individual, which was not allowed at that time, or in this society. He sees her as being beautiful. He then gives her the name of Gaia. Now, in Greek mythology, Gaia is known as Mother Earth. She was around at the dawn of creation along with air, sea, and sky. She's considered to be the mother of all living things. Equality describes Gaia as the mother of the earth and of all the gods. Let this be your name, my golden one, for you are to be the mother of a new kind of gods. Well, what could he mean by that? How is she going to be the mother of a new kind of god? Well, here she is. They are living in this new society. They're going to bring others in with them, and she will be the mother of all that. She'll be at his side to produce this new society. And, in a very physical sense, she is pregnant with his child. And so she will be part of bringing up a new generation in which the I is embraced, and there's a celebration of self.